Title of the project is Mental Healthcare App. This project is presented by Aparna, Kuteja, Divyashri and Geetanjali under the guidance of Dr. Rudresh Shirvaikar. Introduction. Mental illness is recognized as medically diagnosable illness that results in the significant impairment of an individual's cognitive, affective or relational abilities. And this illness needs to be taken care by getting proper treatment and meeting the therapist. Since most treatments for mental care depends on face-to-face interactions between an individual and the therapist, technology cannot be seen as a replacement for therapy. But apps can be supportive to the patients by encouraging them to be more aware of their mood, behavior, and potential trigger points, suggesting some healthy points, etc. Problem description. As mentioned earlier, for the people suffering from mental illness and depression, it is very important first to consult a doctor or therapist. Some people can't take face-to-face consultation with the doctors because of their physical conditions. And most of the people feel shy to speak up about their mental health. Because of that, the number of people getting recovered from mental health becomes less. And even if they want to open up about their mental state, there will not always be an easy path for them geographically, financially, and physically. In this regard, replacement for the mental therapist becomes the necessary thing. Relevance to society or industry. Mental health apps are being very useful for the people who cannot get to sessions as often they would like. It is really useful for those who may not be physically able to leave their homes due to lack of mobility, etc. These apps aim to improve mental health and well-being, ranging from guiding mental illness recovery to encouraging beneficial habits that improve emotional health. Since this app is easily accessible by downloading in their smartphones, it is user-friendly. Smartphones are not constrained by geography and are usually used privately by the user. This app is well suited to the needs of young adults and other users. Using this app, the users can remind themselves about their conditions and their daily works and ongoing goals and motivations. In this semester, we have created a small chatbot, which is one of the main features of our healthcare app, which works based on natural language processing techniques. This is a simple chatbot which takes a user inputs and tries to answer it with the simple sentences. This is the output of our chatbot. First, the chatbot will ask the user's name. When the user replies with his or her name, it will greet the user, and also it will ask how was the user's day. And when the user replies positively, it will reply that it was good to hear that. And when the user replies negatively, for example, I'm not feeling well, like that, the chatbot will reply that sorry to hear that, and also it will ask for the reason. If the user replies with the reason, for example, I had a bad day, it would reply that I understand that. The user can ask some questions like who are you, what are you, something like. It will reply that I can be your friend, I am your friend, or my name is Chatbot, people call me Chatbot, something like that. And when the user says bye, it would reply sad to see you go, or talk to you later, or goodbye. And when the user input is equal to quit, the program ends there, or the chatbot will stop the conversation. And this is a simple one, and which can understand only basic things which we have given as a training data. And in future, we will include artificial intelligence to our chatbot and make it smarter and more intelligent so that it can reply with most appropriate answers. And we will also develop an app for this, that is our mental healthcare app. Thank you.
Hello everybody, this is Roshni from Batch 10 and our project is titled Machine Learning for Waste Segregation.
Hello everyone, I'm Shashwati. I'll be presenting the introduction and motivation segment. The accumulation of solid waste in urban area is becoming a great concern, and it would result in environmental pollution and may be hazardous to human health if it's not properly managed. One of the most important steps of waste management is the separation of waste into different components, and this process is done manually by handpicking. Through our model, we intend to speed up the process of waste segregation without any human intervention and contribute towards ensuring an effective waste management system. Tons of garbage is generated all over the world every year, and India alone generates approximately 100,000 metric tons of solid waste every day. The proposed methodology using machine learning will be able to segregate waste into recyclable and organic with 90% accuracy.
Hello everyone, this is Shreya. Our objectives at the beginning of our project were as follows. To learn data augmentation and data sets, to learn the important libraries used for image processing and other aspects of machine learning that were to be used in our project, to build and train a model using CNN, that is convolutional neural network, to test the model and check its precision, to obtain an accuracy score of more than 80%. Over to Roshni.
Our project maps to data structures and applications, discrete mathematical structures, software engineering, and applied mathematics.
My name is Srishti, and I will continue with the design of our project. We use Google Colab for machine learning, data analysis, and learning. We executed some basic codes of Python on the platform. We import several libraries like CV, Matplotlib, NumPy, TensorFlow, Pandas, and many more. We next import a suitable dataset from Kaggle. We imported the dataset waste classification data. We built a CNN model and trained it until we obtained a desired accuracy. We then test the model by importing an image for prediction. The model predicts the test image into two classes, organic and recyclable. The test image is given as the prediction made.
So the first thing we did was search for a suitable data set. Once we found it, we imported the data set from Kaggle. We then construct a CNN model using activation functions and max pooling. What the activation function does is we get the output of the CNN neurons, and what max pooling does is progressively reduces the spatial size of representation, the amount of parameters and computation in the network. We then compile the model using binary cross entropy and ADAM optimizer. We then train the dataset. Here the epochs is 10, and as we can see, the accuracy is 99.4%. We then import an image from prediction. The image can be a test image from the dataset or any downloaded image. And we then make a prediction and print the result and output. The result is as shown. Your image is organic.
Handpicking method is widely used to segregate waste. This exposes humans to hazardous waste, which in turn affects their health. An automatic waste classification reduces human effort and is more efficient. Our project can further be extended as we desire. Implementation of an automatic waste segregator using a robotic arm to control the entire process of segregation. A waste bot along with additional intelligence using deep learning techniques. The model can also be used in public places to segregate any plastic bottles and food waste as real-time applications.
So the results that we got after implementation are as follows. We got an accuracy of 86% with 3 epochs and 99.4% with 10 epochs. The predictions correctly classified the given test image as organic or recyclable. Over a lot of discussions, we concluded that we still intend to discover the precision and data visualization of our model. We intend to increase the accuracy of our model, make it user-friendly, and hope to learn a lot more concerning our project. These are a few references that were quite helpful while we were working on this project. Thank you.
Good morning. Today, I'll be briefly going through our PBL project, that is, the chat box using socket programming. First, we will start with a little introduction to our project. A group of Berkeley researchers developed an application program interface for TCP/IP network communications called the socket interface. Sockets can be thought of as endpoints in a communication channel that is bidirectional and establishes communication between a server and one or more clients. The Chatbox program we have developed is a general-purpose communication program for the college work environment. This program uses socket programming in C language to connect via TCP connection to another computer and send and receive messages. Any client that has a socket associated with the same port can communicate with the server socket. Next, we will move on to our problem description. During this pandemic, there is an increasing chance that we may be requested to attend college for lab experiments. The need for maintaining social distancing during this time is crucial, and thus an alternative method of communication must be created to see that the exchange of ideas and interaction with peers is possible. Now we shall talk about the relevance of our project to society and the industry. We have created a chat room-like experience for students to be used during lab sessions to communicate while being monitored by the server. In these difficult times, where social distancing is the new normal, using the chat box is highly convenient to communicate. For example, sharing of code between students in lab sessions is very easy using our program. This slide shows us a representation of how the program will look in action. To the left, where my cursor is pointing, this side of the code shows the server, which can monitor all the messages. The other 4 panels are the clients which are communicating with each other through the server. The server can see all the messages being sent, which ensures the productive use of time. This has been a brief explanation about our project. Thank you.
Hello everybody, I'm Pujashri Prakash from BMS Institute of Technology and Management, and it is my pleasure to introduce you to our PBL project, which is done by a group of 4 people, including myself and my classmates, Ms. Ishika Agarwal, Ms. Nidhi, and Ms. Niharika. We were able to take up this project under the guidance of Professor Girish Babu, Assistant Professor in Department of Information Science and Engineering. Let me start off by explaining the key terms of our project. Emergency Vehicle Navigation System deals with controlling the traffic signals for the emergency vehicles such as an ambulance. Ambulances are one of the most essential vehicles people rely on in times of need. Global Positioning System provides location, velocity, and time synchronization for the users. Traffic in our country has increased drastically due to the increase in population and has caused problems for the movement of emergency vehicles. Implementation of an intelligent traffic control system to pass emergency vehicles such as ambulance smoothly is the main objective of our project. From the graph shown, it is clear that the delay in the ambulance has caused many deaths, and it has increased drastically from the year 2017, and it has reached 30% by the end of 2019. Road traffic congestion has become a major issue in highly crowded cities, and due to this, emergency vehicles like ambulance service are deeply getting affected. The traffic signals are changed manually by the cops. The system is effectively implemented in United Kingdom, which motivated us more to do it. This is the motivation to our project. Before we started off with this project, we went through few papers, which helped us achieve the goal of our project. Here are the list of few papers. As you can see, these are the few of the existing systems. Our project creates an Android app that navigates emergency vehicles using GPS and turns the traffic signal green and as and when they approach the intersection based on the distance. The main objectives of our projects are: it navigates the ambulance, it finds the shortest path for the driver, and it clears the traffic when it approaches the junction. Relevance to the society. This system is not only helpful for the ambulance, but also would be of great importance for all other emergency vehicles such as fire brigade, police van, and VIP vehicles. This project will help save lives by taking the patients to the hospitals faster. It reduces the response time and thus increases the efficiency of the emergency vehicles. This is our project schedule. We started off with this in the month of October. Currently, we are at the point of developing the software, and the project is expected to be completed in the month of February. The tools used. We use the GPS receiver present in the phone as the hardware. We are currently working on the Android operating system. The software tool we used is Android Studio, and the coding language we're using is Java and XML for front end. Methodology. As you can see, the first picture explains the working of the traffic lights in the case of an emergency vehicle is approaching. When an emergency vehicle is approaching, the distance between the emergency vehicle and the intersection is calculated. And when it is at a certain distance, let's say 500 meters, signal turns green and it remains green until the ambulance passes. We will be using a cloud environment to store the position of all the traffic signals. And via internet, we will know where exactly the signals are. Here are the few snaps of implementation and results of our project. As you can see, we have been working on Android Studio. We have been using few plugins. We have also used the Google Map API key. We have used the XML language to do the front end of our project. Here are the few snaps of the results of our projects. And to conclude, this project has touched on key points to give us a clear way to the emergency purpose vehicles on road so that they can reach to their destination in least time by not stopping at the traffic intersections. As future enhancements, hardware components and additional security layers can be included. Thank you.
Hey everyone, our PBL group consists of Akhilesh, Neha, Rakshit and Rachana. We are working on developing a mobile application for reporting cyberbullying under the guidance of Dr. Rudresh sir.
Cyberbullying. As we all know, cyberbullying is a form of harassment using electronic devices like smartphones, computers, through social media, text messages, etc. It has become increasingly common, especially among teenagers, as the technology is advanced. Cyberbullying is when a teenager or typically anyone bullies or harasses others on the internet. In an attempt to keep their identities hidden, a lot of cyber crimes go unreported. So we are changing this by creating an app.
So presently the government already has a website where cyberbullying crimes can be reported, but it does not have a mobile application. So our goal is to create a mobile application since it is more user-friendly than a website. And our end goal is to collaborate with the government so that everybody can access this mobile application to report cyberbullying crimes. Our proposed system is, through this application, we intend on developing a platform which creates a safe environment where a victim of cyberbullying or someone who has witnessed it can report the crime to the concerned authorities. So this application can be accessed by two ends. One is by the user, which is directly through the app. The user can report the crime, and the other one is the admin. The admin cannot access the reports through the app, but through a website, which basically behaves as a backend. The user can provide information such as incident type, platform, when the incident took place, information of the victim. However, this is optional. If they want to remain anonymous, they can do so. The information of the bully, if known, should also be provided, and incident details, which can either be a small paragraph or big, depending on the amount of details they know, can be provided, and screenshots should also be included. The authorities on the other end basically receive this information and can take whatever necessary actions that need to be taken. So our app basically behaves as a portal for people to report cyberbullying crimes. Our problem statement is, victims or witnesses of cyberbullying often feel reluctant to come forward and report the act due to fear of retribution. Thus, the availability of a mobile application to behave as a convenient platform for victims of cyberbullying to report the crime anonymously is needed.
I'll be talking about the relevance of cyberbullying to society. The victims of cyberbullying will likely never view the internet the same way again, as their digital identities could be potentially damaged by aggressive online attacks. But beyond that, the most blatant and concerning effect of cyberbullying is how it can impact the victim's mental health. The goal is to highlight the growing prevalence of cyberbullying and the need for greater social awareness of this incident.
I would like to demonstrate the working of the application. I have used Google Nexus 5 as the model to structure my application. The user can input his or her account ID and information and sign in through it, or create an account based on the commonly known social media handles such as Google and Facebook. Once the user signs in, this is the homepage of the application in which he or she can directly go towards filing a complaint, which would have a general questionnaire as follows. The main highlights of this questionnaire is the platform in which he or she can be bullied upon, or the bullying type, which I would explain in the section later, and the different types and the incident details that the user can provide to the authorities. A person can also include the details, screenshots, any valid proof that he would like us to share to the concerned authorities. The no more section of the application is to educate the user on the different types of cyberbullying and what cyberbullying basically can be. So cyberbullying is the use of electronic communication to bully a person, typically by sending messages of an intimidating or threatening nature. The different types might include flaming, in which it is online fights, or the commonly known as harassment is a broad category under which many types of cyberbullying falls into, but it generally refers to a sustained, constant pattern of hurtful or threatening online messages sent with the intention of doing harm to someone. Our application also consists of an important section known as the report center, in which a person can modify his or her reports that is already submitted, and also has a provision to cancel the request. This is the main gist of the application.
So to summarize, cyberbullying is a very important topic that needs to be discussed and brought awareness about in today's generation. So through our application, we intend on doing so and developing a platform where cyberbullying crimes can be reported to the authorities and the needful actions can be taken. Thank you. Hey everyone, our PBL group consists of Akhilesh, Neha, Rakshit and Rachana. We are working on developing a mobile application for reporting cyberbullying under the guidance of Dr. Rudresh sir.
Cyberbullying. As we all know, cyberbullying is a form of harassment using electronic devices like smartphones, computers, through social media, text messages, etc. It has become increasingly common, especially among teenagers, as the technology is advanced. Cyberbullying is when a teenager or typically anyone bullies or harasses others on the internet. In an attempt to keep their identities hidden, a lot of cyber crimes go unreported. So we are changing this by creating an app.
So presently, the government already has a website where cyberbullying crimes can be reported, but it does not have a mobile application. So our goal is to create a mobile application since it is more user-friendly than a website. And our end goal is to collaborate with the government so that everybody can access this mobile application to report cyberbullying crimes. Our proposed system is, through this application, we intend on developing a platform which creates a safe environment where a victim of cyberbullying or someone who has witnessed it can report the crime to the concerned authorities. So this application can be accessed by two ends. One is by the user, which is directly through the app. The user can report the crime, and the other one is the admin. The admin cannot access the reports through the app, but through a website, which basically behaves as a backend. The user can provide information such as incident type, platform, when the incident took place, information of the victim. However, this is optional. If they want to remain anonymous, they can do so. The information of the bully, if known, should also be provided, and incident details, which can either be a small paragraph or big, depending on the amount of details they know, can be provided, and screenshots should also be included. The authorities on the other end basically receive this information and can take whatever necessary actions that need to be taken. So our app basically behaves as a portal for people to report cyberbullying crimes. Our problem statement is, victims or witnesses of cyberbullying often feel reluctant to come forward and report the act due to fear of retribution. Thus, the availability of a mobile application to behave as a convenient platform for victims of cyberbullying to report the crime anonymously is needed.
I'll be talking about the relevance of cyberbullying to society. The victims of cyberbullying will likely never view the internet the same way again, as their digital identities could be potentially damaged by aggressive online attacks. But beyond that, the most blatant and concerning effect of cyberbullying is how it can impact the victim's mental health. The goal is to highlight the growing prevalence of cyberbullying and the need for greater social awareness of this incident.
I would like to demonstrate the working of the application. I have used Google Nexus 5 as the model to structure my application. The user can input his or her account ID and information and sign in through it, or create an account based on the commonly known social media handles such as Google and Facebook. Once the user signs in, this is the homepage of the application in which he or she can directly go towards filing a complaint, which would have a general questionnaire as follows. The main highlights of this questionnaire is the platform in which he or she can be bullied upon, or the bullying type, which I would explain in the section later, and the different types and the incident details that the user can provide to the authorities. A person can also include the detailed screenshots and any valid proof that he would like us to share to the concerned authorities. The no more section of the application is to educate the user on the different types of cyberbullying and what cyberbullying basically can be. So cyberbullying is the use of electronic communication to bully a person, typically by sending messages of an intimidating or threatening nature. The different types might include flaming, in which it is online fights, or the commonly known as harassment is a broad category under which many types of cyberbullying falls into, but it generally refers to a sustained, constant pattern of hurtful or threatening online messages sent with the intention of doing harm to someone. Our application also consists of an important section known as the report center, in which a person can modify his or her reports that is already submitted, and also has a provision to cancel the request. This is the main gist of the application.
So to summarize, cyberbullying is a very important topic that needs to be discussed and brought awareness about in today's generation. So through our application, we intend on doing so and developing a platform where cyberbullying crimes can be reported to the authorities and the needful actions can be taken. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. Our project is about object detection using ultrasonic sound waves. Our group members are Bhargav, Harsha, Harika, and Satvik. We have successfully done this project under the guidance of Mr. Girish Babu, CN Sir. The main motivation or the main theme of this project is human detection using ultrasonic sensor. It is basically based on interfacing of some components such as sensors with the help of Arduino software. The circuit and components are connected to detect people or any other moving objects. So this is how the circuit looks like. So we usually have Arduino board and mainly the ultrasonic sensor and the buzzer in this circuit. So the main output of this whole project is sound from the buzzer. The sensors in the circuit detect the objects more than 1000 centimeters. So we have set the range as less than or equal to 80 centimeters or 2.5 feet as now for the project. Components and the requirements of this project are one ultrasonic sensor and Arduino software. We can use here buzzer or LED light and UNO board, a 5V relay module, 6 jumper wires and power supply. The main motivation of this project is the privacy. In this world, in this new generation, that everyone needs their own privacy. So for that, we have gone through working on this project for the privacy of human beings. So we can use this in order to protect the privacy concerns by placing in front of the door. So if anyone are approaching into our house or near our room, the buzzer will ring so that we can know someone is coming. And it can be used in the obstacle warning systems at a parking lot. It can be used to measure the level of water in a tank. And it can be placed at the elevators to stop unnecessary pauses at no man's floor. So the tools we used. Software details. Our project uses Arduino software because it is a user-friendly platform and the code is close to the natural language that we use in the day-to-day life. The hardware details. It requires Arduino board and its basic components, which is the core of this project, alongside ultrasonic sensor and buzzer. So the flow diagram. Generally how this project works is, first the input of the motion is detected and then it processes with the software with the help of Arduino, and then the sensor will be keep on sensing if for the presence of any object. If there is a presence of any object, it will turn on the buzzer or LED. So this is basically the working model. We have used the power supply here. With that, And this is the whole Arduino board, sensors, everything, wires connected. So this is basically the code which we have used for the project. So we got the results. So here it shows that someone has arrived when we pass any, like if anyone goes, it has detected and it gave us the output. So the conclusion of this project is we have come to know that about many uses of this project in the real life to make things easier and better. As far as further scope is concerned, we can make it even better by making the sensor more accurate and larger to go to greater distance than what it is now. So we see really good use of this sensor in the near future, knowing it is not as costly and easily available in the market. Thank you.
Hello everyone. Today we are here for PBL presentation that is about real-time chat application. It is made by a group of 4 people, Vivek, Vikas, Tarun and myself Anamika Sharma. And I'll begin with the introduction. In a world where the value of time is steadily increasing, building applications that users can interact with in real time has become a norm for most of the developers. Most of the applications we see today, whether they're mobile, desktop, or web applications, have at least a single real-time feature included. As an example, real-time messaging and notifications are 2 of the most commonly used real-time features used in applications. Real-time chat is also known as online chat or live chat. It is a way of communication and interaction in real time on the website. Also, real-time chat uses web-based apps that allow communication in a multi-user environment that is usually addressed directly but is anonymous among users. I'll hand over to Vivek for the rest of the explanation.
Coming on to the problem, the conventional way of forming real-time chat web application is by using AJAX request and response, as there is only one way of communication possible in which client requests and server listens the request and responds for client's request. Hence, for fetching the updates, a continuous pinging is required from the client side, whereas on the other side, updation is taken place on a database through server. And when the client requests the data is retrieved from the database will be provided to the client. It is a very inefficient way due to continuous pinging and difficult process. HTTP long polling can also be used as alternate solution, but it is lot more intensive on the server and way less reliable message ordering is there in this. So to overcome this, we will be using WebSockets in our project to implement real-time updation because WebSocket solves the problem of HTTP response. WebSocket solves this problem very efficiently by forming a two-way communication from one end to the other end, and hence any one of the server or client can push updates to each other. So I request my friend Tarun to continue.
Okay, so moving on to the societal relevance, real-time bidirectional and event-based communication has a wide spectrum of application which includes real-time messaging features on various apps such as instant messengers, food delivery apps, and many others. Also, the real-time notification delivery increases users' engagement. Now, live streaming is the latest application of this technology, and many of the social media platform has this feature on them. Live tracking can also be done so as to check on the progress of taxi rides and food delivery apps. And the next segment of the presentation will be taken over by Vikas.
So we come to the results. Here user will enter their name and can choose their particular room to join. After clicking on the join chat button, user will be prompted to the next window, where users can see their name of the room they joined and all the name of existing members present online. So we tried to make it user friendly, as we don't have to refresh for the new messages since it scrolls down automatically to recent messages. It also notifies all the existing members whenever a new member joins or leaves. So for making the real-time chat application, we have used Node.js, vanilla JavaScript, HTML, CSS, and WebSockets. Thank you.
Hello everyone. Today we are here for PBL presentation that is about real-time chat application. It is made by a group of 4 people, Vivek, Vikas, Tarun and myself Anamika Sharma. And I'll begin with the introduction. In a world where the value of time is steadily increasing, building applications that users can interact with in real time has become a norm for most of the developers. Most of the applications we see today, whether they're mobile, desktop, or web applications, have at least a single real-time feature included. As an example, real-time messaging and notifications are two of the most commonly used real-time features used in applications. Real-time chat is also known as online chat or live chat. It is a way of communication and interaction in real time on the website. Also, real-time chat uses web-based apps that allow communication in a multi-user environment that is usually addressed directly but is anonymous among users. I'll hand over to Vivek for the rest of the explanation.
Coming on to the problem, the conventional way of forming real-time chat web application is by using AJAX request and response, as there is only one way of communication possible in which client requests and server listens the request and responds for client's request. Hence, for fetching the updates, a continuous pinging is required from the client side, whereas on the other side, updation is taken place on a database through server. And when the client requests the data is retrieved from the database will be provided to the client. It is a very inefficient way due to continuous pinging and difficult process. HTTP long polling can also be used as alternate solution, but it is lot more intensive on the server and way less reliable message ordering is there in this. So to overcome this, we will be using WebSockets in our project to implement real-time updation because WebSocket solves the problem of HTTP response. WebSocket solves this problem very efficiently by forming a two-way communication from one end to the other end, and hence any one of the server or client can push updates to each other. So I request my friend Tarun to continue.
Okay, so moving on to the societal relevance, real-time bidirectional and event-based communication has a wide spectrum of application which includes real-time messaging features on various apps such as instant messengers, food delivery apps, and many others. Also, the real-time notification delivery increases users' engagement. Now, live streaming is the latest application of this technology, and many of the social media platform has this feature on them. Live tracking can also be done so as to check on the progress of taxi rides and food delivery apps. And the next segment of the presentation will be taken over by Vikas.
So we come to the results. Here user will enter their name and can choose their particular room to join. After clicking on the join chat button, user will be prompted to the next window where users can see their name of the room they joined and all the name of existing members present online. So we tried to make it user friendly as we don't have to refresh for the new messages since it scrolls down automatically to recent messages. It also notifies all the existing members whenever a new member joins or leaves. So for making the real-time chat application, we have used Node.js, vanilla JavaScript, HTML, CSS, and WebSockets. Thank you.
Hello everyone, we are ISC third semester students. Our project name is Smart Irrigation System using IoT, done by me and my team under the guidance of Sheila ma'am. So since agriculture is very neglected field in the phase of development, so we have decided to do a agriculture-based project. Objective of this project is to develop an automated irrigation system which prevents mainly manual labor and encourages effective use of water. So method adopted in this project is we use two sensors. One is soil moisture sensor, which is Arduino Uno, and another one is ultrasonic sensor with Bolt IoT module, which is a water level indicator sensor. Basically, we embed the soil moisture into the soil, and which tells us the moisture content in the soil, which tells us the moisture content in the soil, and which is connected to a DC motor, which channels a water pipe. And this is ultrasonic sensor, which is taped to the side of the bucket. It measures the depth of the water, and it doesn't touch the water. That's the other thing about ultrasonic sensor. It doesn't touch the water, and it measures the depth of the water, and sends the user to fill the water. Now I'm going to show you the demo of this project. This is the code which we used in this project, and this is the SMS which is sent. We use this software called Telilo, which takes our number and tells the user to please fill the water in the tank. If the water in the tank is less, then it tells the user like through SMS. It's connected to a cloud network. So it's like a Wi-Fi model. So it alerts the user saying that please fill the water. This is actually used in ultrasonic sensor. Now this is the video we use. So soil moisture sensor. So this is the video we use. Soil moisture sensor gives the moisture content of the soil, which is connected to DC motor, and there's a DC motor. DC motor is channeled by a water pipe. So whenever the soil moisture content is low in a soil, then the board tells the DC motor to channel the water, and the water is pumped into the soil. This is how the soil moisture sensor works. This is ultrasonic sensor. Ultrasonic sensor, basically it's fixed to the side of the bucket, and so it's fixed to the side of the bucket, and it tells us the reading. That's it. Thank you.
Hi everyone, this is the PBL presentation of phase 2, and our topic is developing an e-commerce website. And the group members are myself, Nagarjun Gowda, Mithilesh, Ravi Kiran, and Prajwal Mallikarjun. We could do this project under the able guidance of our guide, Dr. Sheila Kathavate, Associate Professor, ISC, Department, BMS IT. E-commerce website is a business where the buying or selling of goods goes hand in hand with the buyer and the trader in an software, or sitting at home within a click of a button. You can buy things without going out, and this is the main website we have developed. And the proposed system that we have proposed, there is already an existing system where the e-commerce website is working, like Amazon, Flipkart, etc. In our system, according to the system which is existing, we have added on to that like features such as recommendation, where the software recommends you when you search for a product. It recommends you, like you search one product 2 to 3 times, and we get the feedback at the back end, and we get the database. With help of database, we recommend you the products which you can buy, or we'll send an email where you can call to our salesperson and you can talk to. And for certain products only which are carryable, for those the touch and feel experience could be given. This is the main system, and in this we support a large scale of small scale industries, the e-commerce website, and in those the main things are you can compare the cost of various websites, and there is flexibility for customers, and there's faster response. And before buying, you can call our customer, like the salesperson, and you can have a review of the product. And the main features of this is here, as usual, we have all the things which are already existing, the main features, and the recommendation is an exempted part which we are trying on. System requirements is HTML, CSS, Bootstrap, JavaScript, and Visual Studio Code. Hardware requirements are 2 GB RAM, which is prescribed, and i3 or i5 processor. And here are the results of our some of the screenshots of our results which we have worked on. Here in this, we have just worked on the front end, but the backend database, machine learning algorithms we are working on. This is the shopping, how the website looks like, and the fashion, when you try to buy fashions. And here there's a search option, and there are very like the normal uses. And when you add to cart, you can add, and you can change you can choose how much of a quantity you want, and there's a total billing up there. And when you're done with it, you can purchase on that. You can purchase by clicking on the purchase button, and you can even remove if you want. And the product order comes out, and here you can fill in all the details, and you can buy it. And we also have the registration and the login here.
This is a PBL presentation done on leave management system by Abhishek Balaji, Subhanshu Vaish, Harsh Vaish, and Vijay Rajvarma, guided by Sheila Madam. Leave management system is a web-based app that provides a seamless employee management system. It is created with the purpose of creating a smart college campus where tedious tasks such as leave applications can be digitally handled. The faculty or any other employee of the college can approach their higher authorities and get the leave sanctioned with a few clicks. And overcoming the traditional method, the digital era can be taken over. Moving on to the demonstration of the web application that we've built is provided with employee login, employee password recovery portal, and admin login. Employee admin login, I'll just log into it and demonstrate how it looks through the portal. So the employee gets an option to change the password, view their own profile, and make changes if required, change password again if required, and apply leave applications can be applied through apply leave option, and leave history can be checked by the employee. Moving on to apply leave, leaves can be applied by choosing the following leave types, mentioning the dates from and to, and describing the leave. Leave history can be checked by the employee of their own in this page. Then there's a simple sign out option for the employees. Checking on the employee password recovery portal, the employee will have to provide the employee ID and employee email ID to move into a page where they can directly change into new password without entering into the current password that they don't remember. Moving on to the admin login. The admins also do get an option to change passwords for the first time, and they get to view the dashboard of all the employees applying for leaves in this page. There is a small bell icon on the top right corner for notification if any employees have applied for any leave at the moment. The details can be checked wherein the details show the reason and the description of the leave that the current employee has applied for. Departments are the different departments in an organization, like HR department, IT department, operations department, and sales department. There can be marketing department and many more as such. Departments, any new departments can be added on here with the department name, a short name to it, and a code. Moving on, leave types can be managed and added. So add leave type can be any new type that is not present in the current list and a description to that leave. Moving on to the manage leave type. Casual leave, medical leave test, and restricted holidays are the types. It can be removed or added here or edited. Moving on to the employees. New employees hired can be added here with assigning them with the employee ID and providing their credentials and then emailing their credentials to them, giving all their personal information, address and mobile number, and they can be added. And manage employee will have a list of employees, their employee IDs, their departments, their activity, if they're active in the company or they're resigned or they're inactive due to their leaves or any such way. Leave management, here's the main topic. So all leaves can be viewed from here. Pending leaves, such as leaves that are still waiting for approval and they haven't been said yes or no to, will appear only here. Basically, everything will be segregated from here onwards, and all the approved leaves will be on this portal. All the non-approved leaves will be here, and there's a simple sign out option for the admin as well. That's all. Thank you.
Title of our project is Amigo. Our project is to develop a chatbot which can be used by the students to get their queries responded easily. A chatbot is a technology that allows a computer program to communicate with the people, like conversing through text messages using a natural language. Amigo will help students to interact with college through various platforms without any disruptions. Students can contact about anything, like about the fee structure, faculty, course details. They can ask the chatbot anything. So how a chatbot works? Whenever a user asks any query, the bot will first analyze the request, then identify intents, entities, builds a response, and then sends it back to the user. How do we get motivation? As students, we all know we require many types of information regarding our college, university during our course. Sometimes getting this information is cumbersome and lengthy too. For example, if we need to know about a fee structure, then we have to go to the administration building, find the correct window, contact the person, which is a very long and hectic process too. So, we as a computer science students are always looking forward to solve the problems around us. This is what we thought of using an intelligent voice bot delivering this kind of information. What we have to do is just we have to ask our bot our queries and we will get the answers in just a few seconds. What is the problem statement? Basically what the problem is, students need to manually visit to college to get their queries answered by the college help desk. This process consumes a lot of time, as well as many students need to visit college if it is miles away from the college too. This process may lead to communication gap between the college and the students. Due to this lack of communication, students are not well updated about the recent upcoming activities. It also hampers the senior study as they have to miss their classes and come to juniors to inform them about the recent upcoming activities. How it is relevant to society or industry. Chatbots never get tired. They never even shut off unless there is some major hardware failure. They will never give in to their emotions, get personalized data, or inform about their accounts. Students can ask them general questions. They can chat like normal humans too. Chatbots never get angry at customers too, even if we ask them repeatedly questions. Chatbots just improve the overall experience for the students. That's why chatbots are the missing link when it comes to corporate communications and keeping your workforce informed. So, what the output we are getting? If we are telling them hey, the chatbot will reply hey. If we are asking him what is its name? My name is Amigo. If we are asking him about the college details, contact number, address, it will give us the data which it is given. If we can also ask it about the subject, like if we are asking about the data structure subject, then it will give us the course name, code, total modules, professor, etc. We can ask them even about how many departments are there in detail, everything related to college, about the clubs, about the faculties, like what are the faculties of A section, B section or any other section. Then it will give us who all the professors are, where all they are living, what are the emails, like where they can be available, what are the office hours, etc. So this is basically how our chatbot works and how it is helpful.
Hello everybody, I am Srikriti of 5th semester B section, ISC department, BMS IT and M. I will be presenting on behalf of my batchmates Ritvik Dasgupta, Shruti and Avinash Naidu. We are batch 10 under the guidance of Professor Shweta of the Department of ISC. The title of our project is TravelBud and our tagline is Your Friendly Virtual Tour Guide. So TravelBud is a chatbot which will act as a virtual agent that shares options based on the user's travel interests via Telegram application. Our chatbot will enable its users to input their city, the city they want to visit, and will direct them to the desired information on tourism websites. The large amount of time that people might spend by waiting in queues at different travel agencies to know more details about the city they would want to visit can be cut down considerably with the use of TravelBud. As we all know, a chatbot is an artificial intelligence software that can simulate a conversation with the user in natural languages in a human-like manner. Our chatbot, TravelBud, is a retrieval-based chatbot with predefined input patterns and set responses. It is a customer interaction tool which talks to the user through texts to deliver a personalized experience. These are our objectives: to guide tourists on excursions and holidays, to make exploring and traveling much more easier, to find hotels, restaurants, attractions, etc. in a particular city as mentioned by the user while having a conversation with the chatbot, and to save time and ensure maximum productivity during travels. Our problem statement is to develop a chatbot that acts as a virtual tour guide to tourists and travelers by providing different options, such as, for example, the hotels that people can go and stay at, lodging options in a particular city, which will be mentioned by the user, to make their experience of traveling more convenient. Relevance of our chatbot to today's society. We all know that tourism is a booming industry. We are in a global pandemic, coronavirus, but the tourism industry is still running. It did face a setback, but it hasn't shut down. People still want to travel and explore various places and gain all sorts of experiences. TravelBud, our chatbot, is tourism oriented and will be immensely helpful to its users to make their experience seamless. Users of our chatbot will not need to hire a tour guide or make several phone calls to their friends and relatives to know details about the restaurants or places they can visit in a particular city. Our chatbot will direct them to such information. So here we can see the desktop version of Telegram application. This is our chatbot, TravelBud. So /start is to initiate a conversation with the bot. The bot says, "Hi, I'm TravelBud, your friendly virtual tour guide." The user S has said hi. So the chatbot has responded with, "Hello there, how may I help you?" So the user has said city, which means they would like to know something about a particular city. The chatbot has asked them to enter the name of the city. Here it's Bangalore. And the three options provided by our chatbot, which is hotels, restaurants, and places to visit. Among these, the user S has chosen hotels. So here our chatbot has led the user to this page. It opens a Chrome tab. It takes the user to TripAdvisor's website. And in TripAdvisor's website, the Bangalore page is opened. Bangalore is auto-typed on the website, so the user does not have to type it again. So we are at Bangalore's page. We are under the hotels tab, and we can see the options the user can have as to which hotel they can stay in. Next, here the city is Chennai and the user wants to know what options he or she has in restaurants in the city. So our chatbot has led them to Chennai page of this website and shows them the options they have for restaurants. You can see Chennai restaurant, Murugan Idli shop, but I'm very sure that there are many more places in Chennai, many more restaurants that the user can dine at. And here, the city the user wants to know about is Delhi, and he or she wants to know the places they might want to visit. And the chatbot has taken them to Delhi's page of TripAdvisor website and is in the Things to Do tab, and it shows the options we have. We have Delhi, Airport, Metro, Express, and many more in this page. To conclude, the chatbot will be able to achieve ease at travel for tourists through its deployment on a widely used application like Telegram. The regular interactions with the Telegram deployed chatbot, TravelBud, will improve our service for further improvements and upgradation. Our chatbot will save time, effort, and also provide easy customer engagement and personalization for an effortless and enjoyable travel in any city. These are the papers we referred before making this project and during the process of making this project. Thank you for your patience and time.
Hello everyone, I am Rakshit. I'm here to give a presentation on our PBL project titled AgroGuide. Through this project, we help farmers by recommending the best profitable crop and the appropriate fertilizer based on their soil report. Our teammates are Praveen, Mayur, and Bhuvan Sai. We express our sincere gratitude to Professor Shweta MS for guiding for guiding on our project. Now let's begin with our presentation. As we all know, nearly 58% of India's population is dependent on agriculture. Agriculture is the backbone of our country. The common difficulty among farmers is they don't have enough recommendation on the right crop based on their soil requirements, so it affects the productivity. Recommendation of crops is one of the major domains in precision agriculture. Through the literature survey, we found that there is no universal recommendation system for the farmers, which is a barrier to the uneducated farmers. Our main aim is to help farmers increase the crop yield by recommending the best profitable crop and the appropriate fertilizer based on the parameters like soil type, climate, soil pH, rainfall, average temperature, etc. An extensive literature survey was done during this project, and here is the list of the research papers we have studied. Analysis of the soil report and prediction of best suitable crop and appropriate fertilizer for Indian farmer is our problem statement. Coming to the existing system, there is no suitable information for the farmer when it comes to crop recommendation. Our existing system for the crop recommendation is based on mere one-to-one interaction among the farmers. So there is no exact information to the farmers, which affects which leads to wrong choice of crop, and it affects the productivity. So it has become a necessity for the farmers to leave the traditional methods of farming and accept these modern scientific and technological ways of agriculture. Here's our proposed system. As agriculture is being practiced in India since several years, we have a rich source of data related to the soil, weather conditions, temperature, rainfall, etc. As in this system, we list all the possible crops. We cover all the possible crops. It helps the farmer in decision making of which crop to cultivate. So through this we can prevent the wrong choice of crops. As maximum types of crops will be covered under this system, the farmers may get to know about about the crops which have never been cultivated. It provides easy access of information to agriculturists. The objective of our project are analysis of soil report, recommendation of the best profitable crop, and identification of appropriate fertilizer. And here are the tools used to build our AgroGuide project. The hardware requirements are we require Microsoft operating system, describes a factor affecting a crop. A benchmark is created by the computer system for each of the data sets, which describes how the factor affects the crop. That means the key element for the growth of the crop is identified, and based on these key element or the benchmark, a report is then generated by the computer system, which consists of at least one recommendation of the crop and the appropriate fertilizer. Now let's have a look at our methodology diagram. Here is the flowchart of the methodology diagram. First step is to input the soil report. The user has to provide the details like details like the temperature, average temperature, rainfall, soil pH, and the percentage of the minerals found as per the soil report. And our website analyzes analyzes the percentage of the minerals, temperature, and various other parameters, and it generates the best suitable crop and the fertilizer, and it also predicts the optimized cost of fertilization. And we have also added the feature to send the report via SMS to the farmer, so to make the information easily accessible. Now let's have a look at our website. This is the front page of our AgroGuide website. The farmer has to enter the details, enter his details. He has to enter his name. Now let's start with entering the details. For example, I'll enter my phone number like this, and let me click on submit. So now it has redirected to the second page, and here the farmer has to enter the type of the soil. Let me click loam soil, and he has to enter the percentage of the minerals found. Let us start with a random value. Okay. Now let me click on the submit button. With the click of the button, it generates the best suitable crop and the fertilizer. Submitted. And see, here is the list of the best suitable crops as per the report. And wheat and cotton here are the is the best suitable crop as per these as per this data and the soil type. Now let me select cotton. So we can even purchase the seeds through this, and I have to select the quality of the seed as in quality 1 and quality 1 and quality 2, where quality 1 is the best and quality 2 is a little lower end quality. Select the quantity of amount of seeds I would require. For example, let us say I would require 8 kg of seeds, and the amount of fertilizer, let me write it as 10 kgs of fertilizer. So we can then it generates the average cost of fertilization. See, here is the fertilization bill. Quality 1 I had selected. The amount of the seed is 2000, fertilization amount 2000, and the total bill would cost 4000 rupees for the fertilization. And coming with the conclusion part, our AgroGuide provides a user-friendly interface to farmers for getting better crop and fertilizer suggestion suitable for place, soil type, and various environmental parameters. And as maximum types of crops will be covered under this system, farmers may get to know about the crop which may have never been cultivated. It also provides easy access of information to agriculturists. And here are the future enhancement we can adapt to in this project. We have a plan to develop an Android-based app so that farmers can access it on web as well as on mobile devices. And we also have an idea to use image processing techniques like decision tree classifier for crop recommendation based on physical properties of soil. That means just with the click of an image, our website has to generate the best suitable crop and fertilizer. And we have also have a plan of implementing crop yield prediction using machine learning and deep learning approaches. That's all from our team. Thank you.
A very good morning to all the dignitaries, respected teachers, and dear friends. I'm Nagashri of 3rd Sem ISC. Today, we, the team members of Navya, Kritagna, Shantala, and myself, are here to present our PBL project, which is a tic-tac-toe game built using the concept of machine learning. We were able to successfully complete our project under the guidance of Professor Ambika Subhash. Introduction to our project. We have used the reinforcement learning approach to build our project. Here is a brief introduction to it. Reinforcement learning is a type of machine learning technique where an agent learns to behave in an environment by performing actions and seeing the results. It always aims for maximizing the reward in a particular situation. To explain about the reinforcement learning definitions, here is a small example. Imagine a cat sitting in a living room. Here, our cat is the agent. The action of sitting will be the current state of the cat. And the environment here is the living room itself. Now, there is also a fish present in the same room, which acts as the reward for the cat. The agent here, sees different possible actions which it can take in order to achieve the reward. In case where it actually reaches the fish, it will be rewarded. So the cat remembers the path which it took to achieve its reward and also remembers the actions which led to negative results. Therefore, our cat employs a trial and error method to achieve the reward. We use this similar analogy in our project. Firstly, two agents play the game of tic-tac-toe against each other. The environment for these agents will be the tic-tac-toe board itself. Now, the agents have 9 different possibilities to plot the symbols on the board. Since both our agents do not have prior experience in playing the game, both of them start out playing with random moves. In this process, they learn by correcting each other's mistakes. Since if an agent wins the game, it will be rewarded, otherwise punished. After the agent is well trained, we make it to play with human to test its performance. Motivation. The main reason for taking up the project is that we could get a hands-on machine learning experience, which is an interesting field and where a lot of exploration and research is required. Building a game tests our creativity skills, coordination, and also the visualization capability. The idea of teaching a model to learn new things is an amazing learning experience. Now, Kritagna will explain about the mapping concepts.
In order to do a project, it involves planning. The different roles in a project may be managing project, developing, testing. The testing involves maybe component testing or system testing or execution testing. The basis of planning involves concepts of software engineering. Object-oriented approach is used as there is a synergy between object-oriented programming and the entities that we are modeling. Data structure concepts are used in representing tic-tac-toe board. We use the memory organization techniques for storing of data or retrieving of data, which involves the computer organization concepts. Neural networks, which is a part of reinforcement learning, involves mapping, which is derived from functions and relation. It is a concept of discrete mathematics. Now, Navya will explain about proposed system, existing system, and problem statement.
We know that tic-tac-toe is a pen and paper game where two people play against each other. One player is X and the other is O. One who manages to plot consecutive X or O's in a single horizontal, vertical, or diagonal line will win the game. We have created a tic-tac-toe game where a human plays with the machine. To play this game, two agents play against each other. This helps the agent to explore and exploit various possibilities and even correct their mistakes. So after getting trained for several number of times, the agent is ready to play with the human. Now the agent is well trained and it is in a state where it can win against a human or at least make the game a draw. The problem statement of the project is creation of a 3 cross 3 matrix serves as an environment for this project. In this project, we have created a tic-tac-toe game by training the agent. Here first the agent plays with another agent. Then when the agent has learned from its experience, it is ready to play with the human. The training process can be done by considering different factors like exploration rate, learning rate, discount factor. Now Kruti will explain about how a project is relevant to society and industry.
Relevance to society and our industry of our project. Tic-tac-toe game serves as a source of entertainment and it is a recreational activity which people perform or do in their leisure time. It helps children apply their logic and develop strategy at an early age, also to follow rules and take turns. Tic-tac-toe game is a game of coordination, visualization, and involves fine motor skills. This is a game of predictability. It helps foster strategic thinking in children where they learn through observation the opponent's next move and think ways on how to block them. Coming to project schedule, this is a graph of our overall project schedule. This depicts the various processes covered in different time duration. The various processes includes requirement analyzing, requirement modification, concept development, system design, test and refine. The graph tells about how our overall project was scheduled and how much of the processes are completed in these 4 months. You can have a look on this. Tools used in our project. To design this project, we have used hardware components or HP Pavilion Intel iCore i5 system, 32 GB of hard disk, HP laptop monitor, inbuilt mouse and 2 GB of RAM. And also we used software tools or Microsoft Windows 10 operating system, PyCharm Community Edition compiler and designed using Python language. Methodology. Methodology helps to be able to standardize, structure, and organize our work methods. This helps us to repeat successful aspects and learns from mistake, resulting in a continuous improvement process. Methodology give us guidelines to make our project manageable, smooth, and effective. In this, we have analyzed concept and implemented the concept using Python language where the revision to the system are tested and refined. It comes under concept analysis and implementation of existing approach. The step 2 is implementation of existing approach. We have identified what changes to be need that as done by using machine learning concept. Change implementation can be viewed as an iteration of the development process where the revisions to the system are designed, implemented and tested. We have designed and developed the process by creating or altering the systems along with processes, practices, models, and methodologies to develop them. It comes under the design and development process. Coming to implementation, the first approach of our project. This is the general overview kind of high level idea of the game. So first we created a 3x3 tic-tac-toe board and displays board function we use. We assigned symbol for 2 players, player 1 is X and player 2 is O. And we need a function to play a game so as to start the game. And also flip between players function we use to flip the current player from X to O or O to X. So X and O are keep playing until there is a win or tie by anyone. To check there is a win, we have to check all these functions. They are check for rows, check for columns, check for diagonals. These functions are defines whether game is over or not by checking there is a consecutive symbols either in horizontal, vertical or diagonal. And we have used function check for tie. It checks the board is full or not. If full, then it will tie. If there is a winner anywhere, flags that there is a win. or returns none if there was no winner, and sets global variable winner is equal to none. Winner and game is still going is declared as a global variables. It holds values throughout of the program, so it loops until game stops. If there is win, game still going becomes false, and winner is equal to none also becomes false, and the game is over. Otherwise continues until there is a win or tie. Now Navya and Nagashri will explain about second approach of our project.
Design of the second approach, creation of tic-tac-toe game using machine learning. We have implemented this by defining three different classes, that is class agent, class board, and class train. So an agent is a problem solver. It performs actions like plotting a symbol if it is vacant, remembering which states are more profitable. It also explores and exploits different possibilities available. It depends on different parameters like exploration rate, learning rate, and discount factor. In order to perform these operations, we have defined suitable functions for each of them. To obtain the positions entered on the board in a linear fashion, we make use of a built-in function called flatten. Now, if the human wants to play against the agent, we set the exploration rate parameter to 0 in order to indicate to quit exploring and to start exploiting. We have implemented the temporal difference learning, that is to estimate the exploration and learning rate from already given values. Next, to store the action performed for a given state, we make use of the serialized board function and append this to the list, that is state order, because here we store the different states in order that is progressed by the agent. We define a function to assign rewards to actions performed on intermediate states. For this, we replace in our originally defined matrix at a particular index with the reward. We either increase the reward or discount the reward depending on the state key value obtained in the list. Then, to decide the move to be performed, like either to explore or exploit, we define a function and also call the set state in order to store the action performed. In explore board function, we find for an empty cell and zip all these vacant cells together. After this, we randomly select from the vacant cell and store it in a selected cell. If all the states are covered, it will exit from the function or else it will recursively call the function again. In process of exploiting board, we find for the best action in a given state. We randomly select from best value indices and store in a variable. This is the overall overview of the class agent. Now, next class board will be continued by Navya.
This slide shows an overall view of the board class. To formulate any reinforcement learning problem, the most important components are state, action, and reward. The state of this game is the board state of both the opponent and the agent. We have created a board of 3x3 matrix and it is initialized with zeros. For easy calculation, numbers are used to establish relationship between the symbols on the board. Symbols are assigned to player and the bot. Since no one has won yet, winner is initialized. The method draw board represents a human-friendly matrix board. After setting up the board, a player, either the bot or the human, enters their symbol to be placed on the board. For inserting the symbol X, we use a value 2, and for inserting O, we use the value 1. Otherwise, it is a blank cell. These are the actions performed by the player. Later, the board is updated and checks if any row or column or diagonal has same values as the last symbol inserted throughout. First, it checks for diagonal. In the method, element diagonal has same value. We check if the latest symbol on the board also lies on the left or right diagonal. If there exists any diagonal, then winner is announced. Otherwise, it checks if any of the row or columns are having the same values throughout. The method is winning move identifies the winner. If the method is game over, returns true value. The train class is explained by Nagashri.
The class train. This is the class in which training of the agents take place. So we have defined three different functions: optimize bot, train, and the main function. In optimize bot, we either punish or reward the agent with respect to whichever agent wins the game. It calls the on reward function and passes the associated reward to it. Train creates a dictionary for bots to store the name of the bot and number of wins. Then, depending on the number of epochs entered by the user, that many times the games will be played between the two agents. And for each game, to calculate the winner, we call the player move function as well as the select move defined in the agent and board class. Main function. In this, we assign symbols for each of the agent, that is X or O. Then it asks the user to enter the number of epochs to train and hence calls the train function. Then we call the get serious function, as I explained before, to quit exploring and to start playing the game with the human. It asks the user to enter the coordinates in order to plot the symbols on the board. After all the training of agent, when it plays against the human, we will be able to test the performance of the agent. This is the overview of the train class. Now we proceed to execute our program. On executing the program, it asks us to enter the number of epochs. So if I give here 5 as for example.
If we give an epoch as 5, it plays 5 times with another agent. Because an epoch is the training the process, that is training the agent to play a game by making to play with another agent. So it plays 5 times with another agent. And finally, the winner may be any agent or it may be tie. If give more number of epochs, the mission trains well. Probability of winning chance is also high. It gives more competition with human. Sometimes X will win or O might win or it may be tie. After it is trained, it plays against human. We can test the performance of mission. And after that, it is asked to user enter your coordinates. We give an input coordinate separated by commas. So the human will play against the mission. Finally, the winner may be X or may be O.
So this is our complete execution of the program. Next, to conclude our project, Shantala will continue.
Okay. So to conclude this project, the main thing it deals with is that It helps the agent play the game of tic-tac-toe with another agent. And also the model explores and exploits different possibilities to learn how to play the game in a more efficient way. Also, the self-play training strategy makes the machine learning method look more magical. And there are various concepts of reinforcement learning which are being applied to this certain tic-tac-toe game. On the overall, we're really happy with how the outcome has turned out for this project. Next. Future enhancements. So some of the future enhancements are that taking time constraint into consideration, it helps us to play the game of tic-tac-toe in a certain fixed time interval. Also, this game can be future extended to next levels by increasing the matrix size. That will also increase the difficulty in the level of the game. Now, training of the model or the agent can also be done against the human for the further improvements of the performance. Also, modifications of a program is also being allowed, but should be taken care of in a better manner. Next. So one of our group mates has also achieved a certification in the IBM Coursera in the course of artificial intelligence, which has also been a major role to play in our project. Next. Now, the references. A few references which we've used are a few authors, as in Richard S. Sutton and Andrew G. Bartow. They have given a certain book called Reinforcement Learning Introduction. So this is one of the books. The other books is called Measuring the Reliability of Reinforcement. So learning algorithms. So this was also published in one of the papers of 2020. And there are a few more links which helped us do our project in a more efficient way and helped us execute it in a certain form. Thank you.
Starting with the introduction, our project is an online grocery website. We all know how popular online shopping has become in India, especially among the youth. It is feasible, less time consuming, and provides the comfort of home delivery. Now, one of the basic things in all the households is grocery. And although there are a few online grocery apps already in the market like Big Basket, Amazon, Flipkart, they still have a lot of scope for improvement. When we talk about the drawbacks, our biggest drawback is the exploitation of farmers. We all know all these companies or platforms charge higher prices of products from the customer on the name of quality product. Do they actually give the same amount of money to farmers? The answer is no. In fact, most of the farmers are underpaid. Second point is the lack of expansion to small cities and towns. The third thing is the quality of product. Many of these companies store their product in the cold storage. From this, we can get an idea of the quality of product and how fresh the product actually is, especially the vegetables and fruits. And last but not the least are high delivery charges. Many customers are hesitant to buy products online just because of the high delivery charges. Now coming to the problem statement. So our goal as a team is to deliver fresh fruits and vegetables to consumers at very affordable price, keeping in mind the low income section as well as the consumers from the small cities and towns. Also, we will make sure that cheap products for customers don't mean any loss to farmers. About the social relevance of our project, we all know that the farmers are backbone of our agricultural system as well as our economy. Any benefit to them will add to the well-being and prosperity of our society. Our platform comes with a feature that allows farmers to quote the price of their products themselves. This not only avoid their exploitation but also give them the opportunity to sell their product as per their prices. Also, affordability is an important factor. We seek to balance affordability with the quality. These are the results. That means how our website looks right now. So this is the sign-in page for the existing customers, sign-up page for new customers. This is how our home page looks like. So as you can see the tomatoes above. So here we are going to add those products which are in high demand. Under the fresh fruits and vegetables, we have all the fruits and vegetables that are currently available. This is how the product description page looks like. From this, we can add the product to our basket. It takes the shipping address and the payment method. We have seen how the website is going to look to the consumers. Now, this is how the website is going to look to our admin. This is the sign-in page. I as an admin can see the complete database, what are the products available along with their prices and brand, and I can delete any of the product or modify it, modify the price, which count in stock and all these things. I can also see the orders of all the users. Also, I can see the user details except for their password because that is encrypted. So I can delete any user if he or she violates the policies of our platform. This is all about our website till now. We are still working on it. Thank you.
Our project is on laser-light security system presented by Kushal Karthik and myself Nandin under the guidance of Dr. Pushpa SK, Professor and HOD of ISC department. In this project, we have designed laser light security system using Arduino UNO with alarm with application of laser diode module. The project idea revolves around creating a security system. Whenever any object will obstruct the laser ray, the buzzer alarm will start ringing. In this research project, the researchers will be creating a laser light security alarm system. The researchers would like to create modification in the diagram. The researchers would like to describe the laser alarm security system and its components, create and recreate the laser light alarm security system, test the efficiency of the project. These are the tools we have used in our project, and this is the software we are using. This is the circuit diagram which may be further modified. Laser-based security system is type of security and alarm system that uses laser light and a light sensor. A security system that protects our homes, offices, banks, lockers, etc. from intrusion and unauthorized access. These are the codes for our project, and this is the reference links. This is the demonstration of our project. The connections are made as shown in the circuit diagram. Whenever an object or a person tries to interrupt the laser, the alarm starts ringing. And thank you.
Good morning, everyone present here. We are making PBL presentation. The title of the presentation is Smart Timetable, and the participants of our group are Savarnik Tiwari, Subit Verma, Swapnil Topo, and Sai Prithvi from ISC department, 3rd semester. And this project is made under the guidance of Professor Sweta ma'am. So let me introduce you to the topic. The right coordination of 6 elements in the school, like students, teachers, rooms, periods, time slots, we can say, subjects, and types of classroom, that are what a good timetable is all about. Timetable automate the various scheduling of school, thus keeping a balance between study and free time, maximizing the use of the best resource. The object behind using the software is to keep students occupied and supervised all the time, expect intervals, lunch hours, and other breaks. School timetabling looks easy, but it is a computationally concentrated and exhaustive work. Smart timetable simplifies the complete timetable process speedily. The features of the smart timetable are entry of data of all timetable related to class, subject, teachers, class period, period allocated to the teachers, etc. is easy. Detailed division of timetable data can be created into groups. The software comes with a guide option, instructing the user how to enter data and other related activities. Smart timetable automatically checks the minimization of gaps in the schedule of teachers. The importance of timetable, or we can see the social relevance, can be like in the Indian schools, timetabling is commonly classified into general, that includes information of the proceeding, scheduling for teachers wherein classes are allocated to them, scheduling for students wherein they are kept occupied and supervised, and professionals that keeps record of absentees teachers and accordingly reallocates the other teachers. Coordination of all happens fast and very easy. School can maintain discipline effectively and efficiently using smart timetables, thus facilitating the holistic development of students in a true sense of term. Thus, software function as a second clock of the school, demonstrating schedule in every activity related to student and teachers class-wise, subject-wise, and including scheduling of schooling activities. It also keeps a stress-free atmosphere in the school, so everything can be run smoothly. This is the result as shown. We have made it on a Python. Here the input has been made and the link is being sent, and the email directly in 10 seconds, as we have made it in a software. In under 10 seconds it goes to the teacher. So this all was the presentation. Thank you. Have a nice day.
Good evening to one and all. Myself Vaibhavi. I with my teammates Sumitra, Vandana and Seema.
Vaibhavi, recording has not started yet.
Hello? Hello?
Recording in a start ಆಗಿಲ್ಲ wait.
Start ಆಯ್ತು.
I started correctly.
Yeah.
Shall I start or stop now?
Yeah, start now.
Good evening to one and all. Myself Vaibhavi. I with my teammates Sumitra, Vandana and Seema here to explain about our PBL project. And our topic is email spam detection using machine learning and Python. As we all know, email is a primary source of communication. With a rapid increase in email usage, there are also been increased in spam emails. What are spam emails? Spam emails, also referred to junk emails, is an unsolicited message sent in bulk. So how do we overcome this problem? For that, there is a simple way where we use machine learning techniques with the algorithm of Navy Base and SVM. The main objective of the email spam detection are to give knowledge to the users about fake emails and relevant emails, and to classify emails into spam and ham. The motivation of email spam detection are spam emails is constantly cluttering inbox. Spam often has very similar characteristics. Now, coming on to the existing system, there are three different methods: standard spam filtering method, client-side spam filtering method, case-based spam filtering method. Over to Vandana.
Good evening, everyone. Myself, Vandana. I'll be explaining about the proposed system of email spam detection. Here we are dealing with 6 steps: select the mail, extract features with the help of word count algorithm, training the dataset with the help of Navy Bayesian classifier, finding the probability of spam and non-spam mails, testing the dataset, and classify the spam and non-spam emails. Here we are dealing with 2 equations related to calculating the probability of spam, which is given by sum of trained mails of spam indices plus 1, which is divided by spam of word count plus number of token. Testing the dataset is given by log A is equal to test mails into log of probability token spam plus log of probability spam. Now we'll discuss about SVM algorithm. There is support vector machine learning algorithm, which is used for classification and also for regression problems, where the datasets are used to train the SVM to classify any new data that receives. We'll see the flowchart. Yeah. Now we'll discuss some of the problem statements of this concept. Unwanted emails irritate internet connection. Critical email messages are missed and are delayed. Millions of compromised computers and billions of dollars have been lost worldwide. Identity theft. Spam can crash mail servers and fill up hard drives. Over to Seema.
Good evening. Myself Seema. Now I'm gonna brief out how it is related to the society. Checking the spam has become a part of our daily life, such that emails have become unmanageable and it's unmanageable. The majority of the email users are the opinion that they have spam mostly for commercial purpose. Some of the email users have that there must be a law against these spammers. There are many ways to prevent the emails, like never respond to the spam, hide your email address, mark as spam, change your email address, use the filter or the rule to automatically delete the unwanted mails. The further presentation is continued by Sumitra.
Thank you, Seema. I'm Sumitra. I'll be explaining the methodology of our project. Email spam classification has major issue in today's electronic world. To solve this problem, the different spam classification methods are used. The methodology that is used for filtering method in machine learning technique that are based on naive Bayes and SVM. In the naive Bayes theorem, which will be determining the probabilities of spam email is in the three phases. The first phase indicates that pre-processing phase, and in the second phase will be featuring the selection. In the third phase, the classifiers of naive Bayes will be working, and this is our flowchart. In the same way, the processors are for SVM. In the first phase, there will be pre-processing, second phase, feature extraction, third phase, SVM training, fourth phase, test classifier, and in the fifth phase, test email. This is our workflow architecture. And this is our implementation code where we have done it by using Python language. As you can see the output, or in the sense result, it's in the form of confusion matrix where it has detected our spam mails and ham mails using test mails and train mails. And in the predicting SVM and naive Bayes, you can see our results have been detected by saying where 0 indicates it is a ham and 1 indicates has a spam. But what emails we have stored right now, it is ham mails. Over to Seema.
Now I would like to summarize the whole presentation. Now we are able to classify the emails as spam or non-spam using the classification algorithm, that is naive Bayes, and SVM stands for support vector machine. And apart from this, we have also reviewed most popular machine learning methods and their applicability to the problems. Now coming on to the future enhancement. There is a wide scope of enhancement in our project. It increases the security and the control, reduces the network resource cost. Filtering of spam can be done based on the content. The spam mail classification is very important. And these are the following reference from
Thank you.
Thank you.